Welcome to our lecture on pro-social behavior. This and the previous lecture on aggression are mini lectures. You might have noticed that they are combined on your study guide and your note outlines. As usual, we'll begin with the questionnaire. So if you haven't already done questionnaire number 12, you'll want to pause the video here and complete it, then score it using the instructions on this slide. The possible range for questionnaire number 12 is 0 to 80. 0 to 80. And some thought questions. Is there a such thing as pure altruism, or is it always tainted to some degree with egoism? When might you fail to report a true emergency, such as a rape or a room filling with smoke? What do Bill Gates, Mother Teresa, and Bono have in common? Which do you think has a more powerful effect on viewers' behavior, violent media or pro-social media? We'll be answering these and other such questions in this lecture. In 2012, after watching the news and hearing our parents discussing Japanese tsunami victims losing their homes, a 4-year-old girl, Kristen, asked if the Japanese children lost their toys too. Her parents explained yes, many had lost everything: homes, clothes, food, toys, everything. The next morning, after sleeping on this but apparently not too well, little Kristen asked her parents if she could donate all of her toys to these children. Not some of them, all of them. In this lecture, we will define pro-social behavior, then explore when it tends to occur, who is most likely to help, whom do they tend to help, when is help most likely to be offered, and theories of why it is that people help. What are some of the motivations? So let's start with this basic definition of pro-social behavior: actions intended to benefit others. I'd like us to dive right into this, right smack into the middle of the biggest pro-social debate, which is still unsolved but has inspired a lot of interesting research: the altruism versus egoism debate. Certainly, some helpful behaviors are egotistic, are motivated, in other words, by selfish concerns. Tutoring the disadvantaged looks really good on your resume. Donating money to a cause can reduce guilt and make you feel noble. Risking your life for a stranger can benefit your reputation and status. Indeed, it is easy to imagine egoistic interpretations for any acts of helping. So, do pure altruistic acts even exist? Those that are solely motivated by a desire to improve another's welfare? Daniel Batson thinks so. He heads the camp of researchers who believe that the motivation behind some helpful actions is truly altruistic and is motivated solely by empathy. This is called the empathy-altruism hypothesis. Now, researchers on the other side of the fence believe that self-benefits, at least partly, are always involved in pro-social behavior. In the case of helping a stranger in pain, they would point to the fact that although it begins with empathy, it ends with reduced discomfort, because having empathy for someone requires that, to some extent, we feel their pain. In the case of giving to a beggar on the street, they would point to a reduction in discomfort from empathy and/or a reduction in guilt. Even in the case of giving to a cause anonymously, they would point to the fact that this can make the donor feel noble and/or gives the donor a feeling of banked karma, presumably to be returned someday, and/or a belief in rewards in an afterlife. Now, consider the wealthiest people. In the United States, you might call them the 1%. Interestingly, philanthropy is required. It is an unwritten rule, a social norm, but just as powerful as if it were written in how powerfully it is taught, in other words, socialized in these circles, because doing so protects them from others' feelings of resentment and inequality. The social norm is so strong that in order to be treated as part of these circles, they must give generously and publicly. Clearly, there are strong egoistic reasons for this source of philanthropy. The cost and benefits are an easy no-brainer. Giving a few million doesn't even make a noticeable difference when you have 27 million left to live on, invest, and pass on to your offspring. Compare that to the difference it would make to someone making $30,000 a year who gives the same 10%. Ouch. So there is virtually no cost for this particular group, the wealthy. Yet the benefits are numerous and strong. You are admired rather than resented. You have defined yourself as a member of a limited social class, the only ones who can afford such amounts of philanthropy. Not to mention that you have reduced the chances of a majority uprising against inequality. Now, if you are thinking like a researcher with the altruism versus egoism debate in mind, you might want to do an archival study to explore whether there are even a few cases, even just one case for that matter, of this particular group giving anonymously. Not that this would settle the debate, it wouldn't, but it would add to the credibility of the empathy altruism hypothesis that acts solely motivated by empathy can exist. But this points out how challenging this research is and why it is that this debate is still not resolved. Obviously, there are no records of who gives anonymously. Here's my favorite video of the altruism-egoism debate from the TV show Friends.
I'm sorry, Phoebes. I just wanted to do a good deed, like you did with the babies.
This isn't a good deed. You just want to get on TV. This is totally selfish.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What about you having those babies for your brother? Talk about selfish.
What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, it was a really nice thing and all, but it made you feel really good, right?
Yeah, so?
Well, it made you feel good, so that makes it selfish. Look, there's no unselfish good deeds, sorry.
Yes, there are. There are totally good deeds that are selfless.
Well, may I ask for one example?
Yeah, it's, there's... No, you may not.
That's because all people are selfish.
Are you calling me selfish?
Are you calling you people? Yeah, well, sorry to burst that bubble, Phoebes, but selfless good deeds don't exist, okay? And you know the deal on Santa Claus, right?
I'm gonna find a selfless good deed. I'm gonna beat you, you evil genius. Hey, Joey, when you said the deal with Santa Claus, you meant...
That he doesn't exist.
Right.
No, maybe Joey's right. Maybe all good deeds are selfish.
I will find a selfless good deed, because I just gave birth to 3 children, and I will not let them be raised in a world where Joey is right.
Hi,
Joey.
Hey, Phoebes.
I would like to make a pledge. I would like to donate $200.
$200? You sure, Phoebes? I mean, after what Sesame Street did to you?
Oh, I'm still mad at them. But I also know that they bring happiness to lots of kids whose moms didn't kill themselves. So by supporting them, I'm doing a good thing, but I'm not happy about it. So, there, a selfless good deed.
All right, and you don't feel a little good about donating the money?
No, it sucks. I was saving up to buy a hamster.
A hamster? What, those things are like $10.
Yeah, not the one I had my eye on.
It looks like we have surpassed last year's pledge total. Thank you, viewers. And the pledge that did it was taken by one of our volunteers. Oh, boy. And may I say, one of our sharpest dressed volunteers, Mr. Joseph Triviani.
Look, Joey's on TV. Isn't that great? Hey, my pledge got Joey on TV. Oh, that makes me feel so... Oh, no!
All right. Now, here is a great practice exercise you can do, keeping in mind what you have learned about the egoism versus altruism debate. Design part of an ad appealing to students to donate their time and energy in taking disabled kids on a horseback riding trip. In particular, create the What's in it for you bullet list on this slide to contain some mostly egoistic motivations and some mostly altruistic ones. Jot them down and then identify each of them with an E for empathy or an A for altruistic.